Guys, I would like to make you aware that the most of the audience, which is around 85% watching my videos, have still not subscribed to my channel. See, if you guys support me by subscribing or joining memberships or through Patreon, then it motivates me to keep moving on and creating more and better videos in future. It also greatly helps me financially during this pandemic. With your support, it makes easier for people to find my videos. What's up guys, Junior Sheikh here, and today we're gonna design Epic Games Launcher UI, just like the original one. This video is the first part of the Epic Games Launcher. As per your votes in community, I am gonna break down this UI design in 3 parts. Alright, welcome back to the channel. First we're gonna set the basic properties for our main window, such as height, width, and also set the window style to none. First we're gonna design custom window chrome. To keep everything sorted, I'm gonna place all the styles in a folder named styles. Now add a resource dictionary file named window.xml. In this dictionary we will store styles related to Windows only. So let's add a style of type window, and we will set use layout rounding value to true and text options.text formatting mode to ideal. Also text options.text rendering mode to clear type. Now moving forward to customizing our window, we will add a setter for window chrome property, and inside this setter of value, add window chrome with caption height 38. Now remember, this caption height is a Windows title bar that is responsible for maximizing and dragging our window, etc. Now set the corner radius as 6 and glass frame thickness to 0. Non-client frame edges will be none and resize border thickness to 1. And we are going to design our own those buttons, so set use arrow caption buttons to false. Next we have to design control template for our window. So add a control template with key window template and target type as window. So first add a grid, then add a border and name it root border. Set border brush as blue for now and border thickness 0. I have already prepared resource dictionary files containing the brushes and fonts we are going to use in this project. So all you have to do is import them in styles folder and define it in app.xml. Now let's get back to our window.xml and change the border brush to static resource inactive window brush. Then we will add a grid with 2 row definitions, in which the first row will contain the title bar, whereas the second row will contain the window contents. So for title bar, let's add a grid, name it title bar, place it in grid row 0. Set height as 32 and background as main background brush. After that, insert a text block with horizontal alignment left, vertical alignment center, margin as 10,5, and the text template binded to title. Next we are going to add window buttons inside a horizontally oriented stack panel aligned to right with some margin from all sides. Now let's add a minimize button with click event. But for click event to work, we require our window.xml to have a class in which we will create the event. So let's add a class with name window in the styles folder, and first we will set the class as partial. And add this class reference in window.xml like this. X class equals to Epic Games Launcher.style.window. Now we will be able to create the click event. After completing click event, add a special character icon as content which is part of the font in fonts.xml file, which I will provide you in description. Now let's set the font family as Sibo and font size 11. And repeat the same steps for remaining two buttons, it is maximize and close buttons. After that, switch to windows.cs and inside minimize button click event, create an object of type window and load the templated parent of type window like so. Also add a constructor and call initialize component in it. Okay, now due to the name conflict, change the type to system.windows.window. That's it. Now we can set the window state of the window to minimized. Now copy the same object code in rest of the click events. Using the ternary conditional operator, we will set the window state to maximized if the window is in normal state, and vice versa. For close button, we will call window.close method. Let's just remove these unnecessary directives and switch back to window.xml. Now it's time to style our window buttons. So let's go to the top and create a new style of target type button. And we'll call it window Chrome button style. Let's set the required properties. So set window Chrome.isHitTest visible in Chrome to true. This will allow our buttons to be clickable. Then set the background as transparent and width as 30, height 22 and foreground as caption font brush. Now let's edit the template property and add the control template of type button. Then add a border with padding and background template binded to buttons' respective properties. Inside this border, we will add our content presenter, which will be horizontally and vertically center aligned. I forgot to add the setter.value, so we'll add it now. Now moving forward to control template triggers, let's add a multi-trigger. So when both the conditions is mouse over as true and is mouse captured as false is met, then set the background of the button to mouse over brush. We will add one more trigger on is pressed property, and when this trigger is true, we will change the background and also translate our button a pixel downwards by setting translate transform Y position to 1 inside this render transform property. Now since our control template is ready, we have to assign this control template to our Windows template. So let's get it done. Okay, as we are done with the common button styles for all three window buttons, now we will style restore button and close button individually. So let's add a style of target type button with key as window Chrome restore button and based on window Chrome button style. Now this maximize and restore button will be of 28 pixels wide in width, and in styles or triggers we will set the trigger on window state. So that the content, which is the icon of the button, will change whenever the window is maximized or restored. Now let's assign this style to the maximize button and repeat this style so that we can make the necessary changes for the close button. So rename the style key and change the width to 48. Now add the multi-theta trigger with two conditions, which is mouse over as true and is mouse captured as false. Copy the setter and is pressed trigger code from above and paste here. Change the background brush values and remove the render transform setter from is pressed trigger. Now let's move forward and add a grid inside the window control template and name it as main grid. This grid will contain all the contents of the window, so we will place it in second row and set the background as main background brush. Now inside this main grid we will add adorner decorator and content presenter inside it. And finally let's add the control template triggers. We will set the trigger on the window state when maximized. So when true, our root border's border brush should turn transparent. And also add some margin to root border so that our window stays a bit away from screen boundary. And last setter for maximize and restore button to change icon on Windows state change. Now like other styles, we also need to define this dictionary in app.xml to use it project-wide. I feel like I have applied same value to all the button contents. So let's switch back to main window and change the values. And also we missed setting the style for the close button, so let's set it. And voila, you just learned to customize your first main window. So as you can see guys, by using this approach you can not only customize your window the way you want, but also make it function like any other window application in Windows 10. So with this we have completed window style. Now let's move forward and add a frame element in our main window. Let's name it main frame. Set source to blank for now and set navigation UI visibility as hidden. Moving forward, let's add a folder in our project and name it pages. This folder will contain all our pages in project. So let's add the first page, and since this one is our loading page, so let's name it that only. This page will contain only one progress bar, nothing else. So let's just add a progress bar and set indeterminate to true. Horizontal alignment stretch, vertical alignment bottom, and margin as 5. Now create a new resource dictionary file with name progressbar.xaml. Define it in app.xml. Then switching back to progressbar.xml, let's add a style of target type progress bar. Then set the following properties: background as static resource progressbar.background and foreground as static resource progressbar.progress and height as 8 pixels. Now time to edit the template. So let's add a template property and setter.value. Then add a control template of target type progress bar. We will add a grid, let's call it template root, and add a border with background template binded to progress bar's background. This border is gonna be the progress bar background. Now add a rectangle with name part track. Then add a grid with name part indicator. And set clip to bounce to true and horizontal alignment left. Now comes the interesting part. Our progress bar should have the striped style indicator, like the bootstrap progress bars, and also should animate continuously from left to right. So for that, let's add a rectangle and name this stripe. Now inside rectangle.fill, we're gonna add drawing brush, then drawing brush.drawing, and add geometry drawing of brush white. Then again geometry drawing.geometry, then add a path geometry. Path geometry.figures, then path figure collection. Now let's add a path figure with the start point as 0, 0. The first 0 is the x-axis and the second one is the y-axis, which simply means that the figure will start from top left of our screen. Okay, add a line segment with point 5, 0, which is simply a horizontal line extended to 5 pixels. Then again new line segment with point 10, 5, which draws a diagonal line 10 pixels from left and 5 pixels from top. Again new line segment with point 10, 10, which is a vertical line drawn 10 pixels from both top and left. So again add a path figure, which this time will have a start point of 0,5, which is 5 pixels from top. Then second line segment from 5 pixels left to 10 pixels from top, drawing a diagonal line. And finally the last line segment to complete our figure. Now as our stripe is completed, let's move it into the progress bar's control template. Before that, we also need to add the rectangle with name indicator and fill template banded to foreground. Now let's paste our stripe. Okay, so as you can see, the stripe is visible in progress bar, but it is stretched instead of repeating. Before solving that, we will set the source of frame element in main window to loading page. Now let's run the application. Now to fix the stripes, we will set the tile mode for drawing brush to tile. Stretch as uniform and viewport as 0088, where 8,8 are height and width and 0,0 are left and right positions of base tile. Now set the viewport points as absolute. So all that remains now is the animation. First, let's set the stripes flow direction from right to left and change the geometry drawings brush to static resource progress bar.stripe. Finally, let's get these stripes moving. So we will add Visual State Manager.Visual State Groups, then Visual State Group with name common states, and add a Visual State with name determinate. Now repeat same for indeterminate. And add a storyboard with repeat behavior forever. We will use rect animation and set the target name as stripe. Target property as shape.fill.tilebrush.viewport and set duration for 1 second. Now we will animate the left position from 0 to -8, which will move our tiles towards left. Now let's run and check the animation. Now last thing we gotta do in loading page is to hide a progress bar before navigating to another page. So add a storyboard with key hide progress bar storyboard and set begin time to 4 seconds and speed ratio to 2. Now add a double animation. Target property UI element dot render transform dot translate transform dot y from 0 to 20. So let's assign this storyboard in the control templates trigger. For translate transform animation to work, we need to set the translate transform value for the render transform property in progress bar style. Now switch to loading page.xml.cs and add a timer to switch from loading page to sign in page. So first add a tick event for dispatcher timer, then set the interval for 5 seconds and start the timer. Now in timer tick event, we will navigate the main frame present in main window to new page, which is signinpage.xml. and stop the timer. Now let's add the sign in page and run the application. So with this we have completed the first part of Epic Games Launcher UI, and don't forget to like, subscribe and share my video. Also join me on Patreon, or you can also support me by joining my YouTube memberships.